another short clip from Professor Jordan Peterson's talk at the National Gallery of Canada about creativity and creative people. In the clip, he's talking about how it can get a little rough out there for creative people, particularly when it comes to trying to monetize their creativity, which will come as no surprise to most people involved in the arts. And of course, he does remind us that there are significant personal rewards for these crazy people who are engaged in artistic and creative pursuits. And that ultimately the notion that creative people need to create in order to thrive in their lives isn't just a romantic myth. According to Peterson, it's deeply embedded in their psychological makeup, in their very being. Here's Professor Jordan Peterson talking about creative people and the psychology of creativity.
The winner takes all, and that's particularly true in a creative domain. The winner takes all. And most people stack up at zero. It's really rough.
So creative people are getting a really rough, they're not getting a break at all. And there are probably more creative people doing non-creative work in the workforce than the other way around.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And you know, the thing is, I don't want to paint too dismal a picture about being creative, because one of the things that pays off big for creative people is that they get to be creative, right? There's great aesthetic joy in that, and depth. And I've been privileged because I've worked with more creative people than would fall to the lot, let's say, of the typical psychotherapist, because people often come and see me because they've watched my videos online, and they deal with people who are interested in those subjects tend to be creative. And one of the things I've really been struck by, first of all, I've learned that, for those of you who are interested in such things, that the reason Jungian psychology works is because it works for creative people. It doesn't work at all for non-creative people. It just falls dead and flat for them. They're not interested in it at all. It isn't how they think.
You mean as therapy?
Yeah, it doesn't match their personalities. Whereas creative people, man, they dream archetypal dreams all the time. It's really interesting. And also they die if they're not being creative. They wither on the vine. And I had one client, I really liked him. He was a brilliant architect. And his rational mind was his worst enemy because it just criticized everything. He was hyper-rational, criticized everything, and really in a dark way, and effectively, you know. If I could get him to not think and just create, he was a complete genius. He could. That's where all of the vitality in his life was, you know. That's where the sap rose up inside the dead tree that was sort of embedded inside of him. And it's very common with creative people is that it's their lifeblood, and it really is from a biological perspective. This isn't some epiphenomena. It's built right into people and deeply.